And I'm telling you, it was uncomfortable in the days following that, where my entire body was like, what the hell have you just done?
Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
How to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, sign up for more support with meeting your needs with your weekly Universal Needs notes at theuniversalneeds.com.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
I'm a little bit excited today. Just a little bit. Serena knows I'm a little bit excited because it's so weird because we record these at such a different time to when they're going live. And I know that when this goes out, people are going to be like, oh yeah, so what? Like it's not even going to be a thing by that point. I mean, it'll still be a thing in my world, but it won't be a thing for anybody else. But tonight is the night that Wicked for Good formally releases in the movie theaters. And I'm going to see it with a friend of mine. I'm like, 4 hours I will be in the movie theater watching the movie. And I'm a little bit excited about it.
She hasn't watched the original Wicked like 30 times already in the last week.
I haven't watched it. Like I was going to say in the last week alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've had like the soundtrack as like we watch the podcast regularly. You'll know I have musical echolalia as one of my like neurospicy things, which means that like if you hear music or you read lyrics, you get that music in your head, and it's not like oh yeah, I got a song stuck in my head. It's like, no, this is a permanent soundtrack you can do nothing about, that is playing even if you're watching TV or doing other things. Like sometimes it can be fun at times, and other times it can be really fucking annoying. But I have literally had segments of the Wicked soundtrack on loop in my head this entire week through. So excited. Very, very happy about it. It was funny, like we were talking the other night with a friend of ours, or the friend that I'm actually going with, and I realized it's like, oh, literally it's been like 15 years in the making, this for me, because before that, because I mean I'd wanted to see Wicked for years, but I finally went to see it as my like 30th birthday celebration, and I was like, oh yeah, that's been a while. And it's funny because the friend I'm going with, the mutual friend of ours, like he came to the party late. He didn't know, he hadn't seen the Wicked stage show. He didn't really know anything about it, and now is as deeply entrenched in the loving Wicked as I am. So yeah,
I don't know. It might be an even more so. Maybe.
Oh, absolutely. Possibly. No, I think right. So, but it's funny because I'm like, if you're watching
Dunkin' Donuts tins at this point,
that's true. That's because I don't want any more shit in my house. Like that. That's one reason I'm not doing that. Because I'm like, it's so funny because he bought me a little Wicked shadow box, which is sitting on my side over there, and I'm like, oh, I have a little something, but I get like all of the merch. I get a little bit like, oh God, no, it feels a bit overwhelming, and I wouldn't want all of that in my space. But if you are watching on the video, you might notice that I have something on my earrings. I have little witches hats on my earrings ready for tonight. So
you're gonna have a wicked time.
I am gonna have a wicked good time. In fact, I'm literally going to have a wicked good time. This is the shirt that Serena gave me the other day. It says wicked good time on it if you're not watching on the video podcast. But as much as I would love to do an episode just on Wicked, and I'm like kind of tempted to at some point. I mean, needs throughout that entire thing. We could have some fun with that. But that's not what we're going to talk about right now. We are kind of moving on from what we've been talking about in the last couple of episodes to this whole concept of the importance of getting comfortable with discomfort, because this is like a thing that is said a lot, especially in the personal development, therapy, psychology spaces, which is like, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes. ... And
Nuance,
there is
nuance,
an
nuance,
and.
nuance.
Nuance. Yes. Well, it felt weird saying 4 of them, like nuance. Like it's supposed to be 3.
I'm on the LMNOP still, so LMN. Oh no, I added a 5th
Oh,
letter.
you got a P as well.
Ah.
Oh, dear. If you don't know what we're talking about, I think it was the last episode that pops up in. So we I mean, we are going to get to the and a little bit later, but I do think it's really important to kind of discuss and talk about why is it important to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because like by definition it ain't comfortable being uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable by definition. Like, you know, it's like like it doesn't feel good to be uncomfortable. And so it makes sense as to why so many people avoid getting uncomfortable, because in the instance in which it first happens, as long as we are talking about the first kind of discomfort, not the second type, which we're going to get to in a second, maybe in this episode, maybe in the next episode, depends how things flow today. But when we're talking about there's 2 different types of discomfort. The first type of comfort is supportive discomfort. And when we're talking about supportive discomfort, again, the clue's in the name, it is supportive to us to engage with this kind of discomfort. Because the truth of the matter is, if we were never willing to get uncomfortable, we would never learn anything. We would never do anything. We'd never go anywhere new. We'd never meet any new people. Like, we wouldn't do anything in life, because there's always going to be a slight discomfort when we're doing something new. And it's always going to have like we talked about this, like Serena and I were talking about this the other day, how like when you first start engaging with supportive discomfort, well, we were trying to kind of define it in a needs term. And it was like, well, supportive discomfort, like supports your needs and the other one doesn't. And when we realized actually that's not necessarily true. Yes, in the grand scheme of things, supportive discomfort overall is going to meet your needs far better. And when you kind of engage with the supportive discomfort, there's usually a dip in your needs, like right at the beginning, because by definition, one of our needs is our security need. And one of the things that meets our security need is familiarity, which means if we're doing something that's unfamiliar, there's going to be a dip to our security need in that moment. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing if it is part of this kind of bigger strategy, this bigger understanding that we are doing something because it is going to give us something in the long run. And we want to get comfortable with this supportive discomfort when doing so is going to help you to move something difficult through something difficult, because like we're like life be lifing. We talk about this all the time, and I think it would be so easy for us to be like, oh, well, we don't ever want to be uncomfortable. Life is uncomfortable at times. Shit happens in life, which is like, it's not fun and it's not enjoyable and doesn't feel good. But if we avoid that discomfort, and normally that avoidance takes the form of distracting or numbing or doing something that will mask our needs for a second. So whether that be we might eat certain things, we might drink certain things, we might do certain behaviors. Like I know some people will do exercise. They will go and they will like blast themselves at the gym as a way of avoiding the uncomfortable things. It's a distraction in that moment. So in those moments where we're kind of where we need to move through something difficult, we're going to want to be able to get uncomfortable to move through that uncomfortable thing. Because when we have something that is uncomfortable that is in front of us, the best and easiest and most effective way through is through it. Like it's like I was talking to someone the other day. I've got a friend of mine who's going through a very, very difficult heartbreak right now. And it's a very messy ending of a relationship. And I said to her, and I've said this on the podcast as well, whenever I'm in the position that she is in, I always say to myself, I wish it was 3, 6, 9, 12 months from now, because I know I will get to the other side of it. But the only way I'm going to get to the other side of it and actually really get to the other side of it is by going through the icky part in the in between, which is the bit that's uncomfortable, which is the bit that doesn't feel great. So we want to do that when we're wanting to move through something difficult. Sometimes we want to get comfortable with being uncomfortable when we're looking to bring a relationship closer together, because sometimes the conversations that need to happen in order for a relationship to get comfortable, like the ones we were talking about in the last episode, aren't that comfortable. Like it's like that. Oh God. And we've talked about this on previous episodes, when that very first moment where I decided to call Serena out when she'd done something that wasn't cool at the time. And I remember that moment of like, oh God, like I really like this person and I really want this person to be a part of my life. But this is the test. This is what's going to determine whether or not this becomes a close long-term friendship, or whether this becomes one of those boundaried, you're kind of cool but from a distance kind of friendships. And I remember that feeling of like, it doesn't feel comfortable doing this the first time because I don't know how she's going to respond. And oh my God, am I grateful I did that, because we wouldn't have the relationship we do now had I not stepped into that space, had I not been willing to go, okay, it's uncomfortable, but I have to be willing to go to the uncomfortable place to get to a point where we can be closer. And actually, it feels quite comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations now relative to what it was previously. Mm-hmm. The other way in which we might want to get, I mean, and there's lots of these. These are just a few of them. Another place in which we want to get comfortable with getting uncomfortable is where the risk of being uncomfortable and the amount of uncomfortability we're going to experience, or discomfort we're going to experience, is worth the reward, because it's with someone you trust, or it's because you're wanting to address old patterns, old fears, old traumas that are negatively affecting you. And you know that by addressing and facing those things, you're going to get to a place on the other side, which is more healed, more fulfilling, more close, like all of those things. So it's like we want to be willing to get uncomfortable. Like, and when we're learning things, like when people go through our program, I mean, if you're looking for comfort, the universal needs is not for you. Check, like, move on, find something else.
Can confirm.
That is not because we spend our time trying to make you uncomfortable, but in order to learn how to do things in a way that's going to be supportive to you, you have to also look at the things you're doing that are unsupportive. That process is not comfortable. There are things we are all doing every day which are compromising our needs, which we're not aware of. And it's uncomfortable to recognize that and realize it and go, oh, shit, I got to change that.
And sometimes they're your favorite things.
Yes, it's true.
Like, but, oh, I love that. Like,
absolutely. And the benefit you get on the other side of it, compared to the discomfort or anything that you may choose. And it's like, we're never going to say to you, you have to give this up. That's going to be a choice you make. If you go, oh shit, that's really not serving me at all, is it? Like, there's a part of me that enjoys it. There's a part of me that's used to it, that it feels safe and comfortable and what have you. But in actual fact, for where I want to be in my life and for the experience I want to have of life, I want to do this. And so, like, the benefit you get is so, like, orders of magnitude greater than the discomfort in the moment. And you have to still go through that discomfort. I mean, even when you think about like just learning something new, learning anything new, you're going to go through this process, because like if you're, I mean, great example. This might not be something new, but it's sort of new-ish. Years and years and years ago, I loved doing aerial hoop. I did lyra for several years. And if you don't know what that is, it's like a suspended hoop where you kind of dance and twirl and do fun things in it. And I'd always wanted to do it. And it's not easy. It requires a lot of strength. It requires a lot of flexibility. It requires a lot of discipline to kind of learn those sorts of things and like figure out how do you get into and out of the hoop. I mean, I won't show you my legs right now because the bruises are still bruising right now. I'm going to be honest. I had, unfortunately, we went through the COVID lockdowns and everything in the UK. And then while we were still in that process, I actually fell down the stairs and fractured my spine. If you're a long time listener, you will probably remember that. Or at least you will remember me telling you about that. And so because of the healing journey I went on and because of the challenges I had in my body from that accident, I've not been able to get back into the hoop for a long time. And then last weekend, a friend of mine was like, hey, there's a lyra class happening. You want to go? And I'm like, Yeah, actually, I do. Now, I was very nervous about going to this class. I was very, very open with everybody there about the fact that I was nervous going to this class because, one, my body is not Lyra ready right now. I'm not in perfect condition in terms of my upper body strength and developing that, because it's a big part. Even just your grip strength, like holding onto that bar. My God, I mean, the blisters you get, and it's a process. It's worth it. It's a lot of fun, but it's a process, and there are some things that aren't that comfortable about it. I went, I had a great time. I loved it. And I was like, also, like, I'm in the right shape, but also it's been a long time since I've done this. So it's going to take a while for it to come back. And actually it came back easier than I thought it would. But I have not used those muscles for 6 years. And I'm telling you, it was uncomfortable in the days following that, where my entire body was like, what the hell have you just done? Wait, what? I didn't even know I had a muscle there. What were you thinking? What made you think this was a good idea? Because I'm stretching and I'm using and I'm engaging muscles that I haven't been. That creates a discomfort in the body. When you start doing any form of exercise that you haven't done previously, you're going to feel it because your body has to learn how to use those muscles, and that's an uncomfortable process. But that doesn't, I mean, if people went, oh, it's uncomfortable doing that, no thanks, there'd be no sports people anywhere in the world. There'd be no dancers anywhere in the world. Like, we wouldn't do it. We'd be no ice skaters. Like, these are all things that part of the learning process is uncomfortable, because we're using, whether that's we're using physically parts of our body, whether we're using parts of our mind, whether we're using and engaging with emotions that we haven't engaged with previously. Anytime we learn something new, you're going to go through this process where there's an element of discomfort. And if we just focus on the discomfort and we're just like, oh God, this is uncomfortable, I don't like this, I don't want to play. I mean, it reminds me very much of like when you're on vacation and it's super hot and you're by the swimming pool and you want to get in the swimming pool. We've talked about in this context of like processing emotions before. Like, if you go slowly in and all you focus on is like, oh God, this is freezing. Oh God, this is so uncomfortable. Oh my God, I don't like this. Then a lot of the time people just get out. And there are people who do that. They go in and they're like, nope, can't do it. And off they go again. And there's other people go, oh my God, it's freezing. I'm just going to dive in because I know once I get in, it's going to be fine. But I got to go through the immediate shock and discomfort to the system to get to that point. And so that's what we're saying is like, we want to build our capacity to be uncomfortable. And one of the ways that we do this is through meeting our needs. Shock. I know that's a surprise to you. You wouldn't have expected me to say that that's the way to do this. Not like it is with most things. And also practice doing things that are going to put you in that supportive, uncomfortable space. A little bit like we talked about in the last episode, in terms of like starting to have those, like we talked about in the last 2 episodes. In fact, we talked about it like in terms of like having direct conversations. We talked about the whole having the uncomfortable conversations. That means that we're not avoiding conflict or resolution, as the case may be. And so it's really important for us to start to practice doing that more, because the more we do that in those supportive discomfort spaces, the more our body gets used to that level, that kind of discomfort, which is for our benefit in the long run. And that's ultimately what supportive discomfort is. Supportive discomfort is discomfort where there is a long-term benefit for it. And so it is worth the short-term discomfort to get to the point where we have that long-term benefit. So it's in the context of supportive discomfort, we need to learn the difference between the discomfort of doing things that are different, like we're talking about here, and the other form of discomfort, which we're going to get to a little bit later. And so this kind of discomfort is about like when you are, as I said, doing things that are different, when you're seeing things that haven't been working, like just seeing that, just noticing that, being able to like recognize and name that can be uncomfortable. Whether you see where you've made mistakes, it can be uncomfortable owning that we've made mistakes, and those mistakes have often like negatively impacted ourselves or other people. When we're growing, I mean, literally growing pains is a term, because sometimes it is painful to grow, but that doesn't mean to say we don't want to do it. When we're changing the things that don't work for us, like again, we're going through that process of that change. it is uncomfortable because something that supportive discomfort is such because we are in the process of change, whether that is the awareness of the change, whether that is because we are actively changing, whether we are integrating that change, whether we're getting used to that change. And because of that, like, this is the reason that people often resist change, because change requires a little bit of discomfort. And when the discomfort is kind of temporary, short term, or not as severe, but the benefits are significant, that's the kind of discomfort that we want to engage with. And I mean, I know that for you, like, going through this program was a really good example of that, right? Where it wasn't always comfortable, right? Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Ironically, the version of the program I went through, I actually think was it eased into it just slightly more, so that I was like, okay, this is gonna be a lot. Okay, there's gonna be some things, and then I was like, oh, okay. Like, then the mirror came up. Now it's a lot. I feel it's a lot more robust, and it's a lot kind of realer in the sense that, like, there are things that are very close to the beginning of the program where it's like, oh, this isn't going to be like an easy, I put on headphones and just, la-di-da. Like,
Chill and listen.
yeah, like the content pulls you in because you're like, oh, these are things. These are things. And you get a little uncomfortable with it because we've been conditioned into thinking certain ways. We've been conditioned into doing certain things. And it's not, a lot of times, like, I didn't know half the stuff I was doing unconsciously. And I mean, sometimes consciously, but not knowing the impact it had, and finding out that I had been impacting people and I had been doing things to further whatever it was in my life, whether it was my personal growth, my job, my, relationships, that I had been doing things that were actually harming those relationships and uprooting them and making the things I wanted in life get like so much farther away from the point where I was at. And it was very like that discomfort. I needed to face that because if I hadn't been in those spaces of discomfort for those specific things, I wouldn't be where I am today. If I hadn't been able to sit with the discomfort, and it's why we suggest going, working with us in the program, because you have somebody to
If
be
you
like,
can.
if you can, yes, because you have somebody that's like, okay, like, hey, this is normal.
How you navigate through this,
and this is how you navigate through. And that's what we try to do with the podcast, is kind of take like little pieces of the program and be like, okay, we're going to navigate this topic today and we're going to navigate that topic. And I know there has to be episodes, if you're a longtime listener, that you've listened to and was like, oh, that sounds familiar, and not in a good way. But like, I think the program was the best example in my life of where supportive discomfort actually, like, the impact that can make. Because I have a life on this island and people know, relatively this kind of version of me, and I'll say something that kind of relates to my past and they're like, that wasn't you, like you, and I'm like, oh, you have no fucking idea. Yeah, me.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And I'm so much more in alignment with my own self, and I'm the person that I want to be, like,
right.
Which that wouldn't have happened had I just sat in comfortability. And I say it, fairly often, like, uncomfortability is where change happens. Like,
right.
There's very little change that it's like there's not some sort of adjustment, and that adjustment is, in a sense,
right,
an uncomfortability from, like Claire said, the familiar.
Well, yeah, and as we were saying before, like, we get our security need met by the familiar, so the discomfort is partly because we're no longer feeling as secure because things are feeling unfamiliar, unfamiliar even, because comfort is like it's like an unsupportive way of trying to meet our security need. Because I mean, and we'll, if you go through the program at some point, you'll get to understand that it's not just about how, it's not just here are the ways of meeting needs. There are some ways of meeting our needs which are unsupportive and often quite draining, and other ways of meeting needs which are supportive and nourishing and are going to help us to thrive, which is like the difference between the red ways of meeting needs and green ways of meeting needs. Comfort is one of our red ways of meeting our security need at times. And there are times when comfort is a legitimate, this is a green spectrum way of doing it. It all depends on the context. It all depends on the nuance. But the thing is that a lot of the time that discomfort is short-lived. It's not something that's going to be around for a long time. It's not something that's going to be, oh my God, excruciating for a huge long period of time. It might be real, like, I don't know why this is coming to me, but it feels a little bit like it's almost like a dislocated shoulder. Like if you've got your shoulder dislocated, you might end up with excruciating pain for a split second when it gets put back in. But actually you end up with complete relief on the other side of it. Otherwise, you end up with this continual dull pain that doesn't heal and actually causes more damage to your body. It's not excruciating, but it's not actually good for you either. And so either it's short-lived at a lower level, or it might be at a high level for a very short period of time in order to get you onto track for the experience that you want, for the healing that you want, for what it is that you want to create in your life. So sometimes we do have to like sacrifice the security of the familiar, and we have to sacrifice some of our needs in a very small way, in that like little dip, in the short term for the long-term payoff. And because this leads to that payoff that is so like orders of magnitude greater than any dip that you're going to have as part of the process. That means our needs are better met on the other side. We're looking for that we're having that short-term discomfort for the long-term benefit. And there's actually a really good example of this from Serena's experience, was when she actually left her previous job to come and do this full time. And it was so interesting because like when we went through it, she was staying because it met her needs to stay in a teeny tiny way. But it was actually costing her needs.
It was teeny tiny, but legitimate ways. Like it wasn't like, oh, it's just, you know, this feels good. And I mean, that statement in itself is a can of worms, but like they were things that were like legitimately meeting like needs in positive ways.
Important things and important ways. Like it wasn't just a frivolous, like, oh yeah, I get free coffee or free donuts at the coffee stand or something like that. It was like, these were like legitimate, essential things to meeting needs that were being met in small ways. But the interesting thing is, it was actually costing her needs way, way more than that. And the same needs she was trying to meet were getting cost more than the way that she was meeting them. And one thing I don't know that we've actually shared about that process is that, yes, it's true that her needs were being compromised more than they were being met, and it actually met her needs better in the long term to transition out of that and come and do this full time. And that doesn't mean to say that process was comfortable. And it doesn't mean to say that where her needs had been being met in some ways, there wasn't that dip to those needs in order to build and create the ways that were going to meet her needs so much better on the other side of it. And it's like, it's not like it, I mean, it would be so easy for people to be like, oh, well, it wasn't meeting her needs effectively, and then it was meeting her needs effectively, that was a good decision. It was a good decision, but it doesn't mean that the process was always easy. Same thing with me when I left my my corporate career to start doing what I do now. I mean, people always say to me, oh God, it was so brave of you to do that. It wasn't brave, it was desperation. I was desperate to get out of there because of the impact it was having to me. And still, that doesn't mean to say that, I mean, it was funny because I remember people saying to me like, oh God, how did you feel when you handed your resignation? And the truth of the matter is, in the moment I handed it in, all I felt was relief. And I did feel relief. And then like the day after, I was like, oh, what have I just done? And it was like, oh, was that the right choice? Or did I make good choices here? I mean, I did make good choices, but it was uncomfortable in the short term. Like it was the same thing when I went through the same process, that just because the overall outcome was incredible, doesn't mean to say the process. I mean, you look at anybody who has created something significant in their life, whether you're talking about a dancer, whether you're talking about a musician, whether you're talking about a sports person, whether you're talking about a business person, and you ask them whether the process of creating whatever it is that they've created, success in whatever they've created, whether it was always comfortable and whether it was always fun.
Ask me that question right now.
So, Serena, was it always comfortable and fun?
No.
Was it worth it?
Abso-fucking-lutely. Like, without a doubt, 1,000 times over.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, so this is why, like, learning to lean into the supportive discomfort will help you to grow and will bring you benefits in the long term. Doesn't mean it's going to be fun in the short term, but it is going to give you benefits in the long term. And that's the thing, is like, so how do we lean into supportive discomfort? So as we said earlier, there are two things that really help here. The first thing is to support your needs while you are doing this, like especially your security need. Like, yeah, one of the things I think people don't understand or don't really get about needs until they go through the program is that you can say, oh, my security need is being negatively met. That negatively impacted. Sorry. I was like, that didn't make sense. Hold on,
I'm uncomfortable with that statement.
Valid. It'll be short term because I'll correct it in a second. So yes, if our security need is being negatively impacted by a situation, that doesn't mean to say it can't also be at the same time being met in other ways. And I think people go, oh, it's either being negatively impacted or it's being met. Sometimes both are true at the same time. And
sometimes they're both are true for the same need at the same, like the exact same need at the exact same time, which is
with the same way of, with the same, by the same thing. It's a mind fuck. I'm not going to lie. Let's just call a spade a spade. It is. It's one of those like, oh, okay. So one of the things that is really important to do is like recognizing that if our security need has been negatively impacted over here, there are dozens of things I can do in parallel with that to support it at the same time that it's being negatively impacted. And when you recognize that, it means that you don't have just to be like, oh shit, needs being negatively impacted. Guess I got to wait for that to finish until I can do something about it. No. You can do something in the moment, and it will, what's the word I'm looking for? It will counteract crab claw. Yes, it will crab claw it. I mean, in fairness, my hand signals weren't helping in any way, shape, or form there, but it will counteract the negative impact. So what it will do is that it might not mean that your needs are met on the other side of it, but it actually might mean that it's neutral in the sense that it's not been negatively, the negative impact and the positive being met ends up canceling each other out. So you get to the point where it's like, okay, so my need isn't met, but at least it's not negatively impacted from where it could have been. So that's one of the things you can do. Go ahead.
Along with that, like, I think it's important to say, like, you know, I had said sometimes it can be the same need, like in the same instance that's, you know, it's met, it's unmet. One thing it kind of took me a while to kind of wrap my head around is if my security need is being compromised by a specific situation, let's say it's the do I leave, do I stay, you know, job situation. In that moment, it might be hard to meet my security need in the context of that job situation. Like that specific aspect of my security need, I might not be able to access it for whatever reason because, like, you know, whatever the constraints were based on the job or whatever it might be. However, I'm able to go back to my needs menu. I mean, it's pretty much up here at this point, but if not, I could go back to it and look at it and be like, all right, what are some other ways to meet my security need? And go through and be like, ooh, that would actually feel really good right now. Oh, that would feel good too. And do a couple of things that have nothing to do with the job necessarily or that specific situation, but just bolstering your security needs so you feel more resourced in it. Because like if your security need has been impacted and then it's impacted by, you know, an instance and then it's impacted by the job situation, there's a lot of things you could just feel empty in totality with your security needs.
Right.
So like,
well, I
the
mean,
fact
let's make a simpler example. So say, for example, that you are exhausted because you haven't slept well the night before. If you are exhausted because you haven't slept well the night before, and obviously I know I'm talking about foundation function need, but sometimes it can be a little bit more helpful because they're a little bit more easy to understand and a little bit more practical in nature. So if, for example, you haven't slept the night before, it would be really important to make sure you're hydrated, to make sure you've got nutritious food, to make sure you take a little bit of time to relax in the context of those things. So you might not have the ability to get some more sleep, but there are other things you can do within the context of your foundation function need to support your foundation function need overall in the context of the fact that you haven't slept well. So it's like, but if you didn't sleep well and then you were like, well, I haven't slept well, so I can't be bothered to do anything, so I'm not going to hydrate and I'm not going to eat nutritious food and I'm just going to rot on the couch for the rest of the day. Like, then you're going to like compound the thing that is already happening. So you're going to end up adding to that, amplify the kind of unmetness, I'm not sure that's a word, of your foundation function need. But like, it's the same kind of principle, even though we're talking about different needs.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That is a much more simplified version of what I was trying to say.
Yeah. So, I mean, and the interesting thing about like when we're talking about discomfort and supportive discomfort is like, in these situations, change seems uncomfortable, but because you've like learned to tolerate situations that are toxic or aren't serving you or aren't supportive to you or others, i.e. you've got used to them, they can seem comfortable because they are familiar, even though they're actually very toxic and compromising your needs. And the interesting, the weird thing is the way that our brain works and the way that like our conditioning around our needs works is that sometimes they can feel easy compared to change, even though like the compromise to your needs from staying in them is severe and significant and sustained. Yes, we are talking about, and each one of those is a trauma. So if you want to go and look at, go back to our trauma series and understand the difference between the different types of trauma, like every time your needs get negatively impacted, you're experiencing a trauma. So if that happens like at a severe level or at a significant level, but then it also happens at a sustained level, so it happens over a period of time, it's really seriously compromising you. But because you're used to it and it feels familiar and it feels comfortable, it can feel easier than changing that into a situation where your needs aren't going to be compromised. But that's usually because we're either masking, avoiding, ignoring, or just unaware of how much it is costing us to stay in that space, i.e. how much it's costing our needs and the needs of those around us. And so what is really important for us to recognize with this is just because something is familiar doesn't mean it is supportive. And actually something that feels uncomfortable can, in the short term, feel really, really unsupportive. But in actual fact, it is the best thing for us in the long run. I mean, perfect example, you look at the recent breakup that I went through. I mean, I say recent, it's over a year ago now. But was that a comfortable experience? No. Was it affecting every single aspect of my life? Was it draining me of my life force energy? Was it incredibly toxic and abusive? Yes, it was. So the process of the split was very uncomfortable, but my God, I would do it 10 times over if it would get me to where I am today. Because how it was negatively impacting my names, it's worth going through that change. Does it feel like it sometimes at the time? There are moments where you're in the middle of that change going, what am I doing? Like, what? Like, it's like, am I ever going to get to the other side of this? Is it ever going to feel good again? Like, I mean, you really can be in that moment. And that's why we're saying, like, it's not just like, oh, your needs are all like, it's great for your needs. And you should just like, your needs are going to be met all the way through the process. That's not how this works. There are going to be those dips. And that was that dip for me. And that dip can sometimes feel like there's dips. I mean, it feels like a little bit like, like on a roller coaster, we have the little dip and then all of a sudden, whoa, and it's like, oh God, that was a big one. Okay. But it's still a dip in the grand scheme of things, because you're going to get to the end of the roller coaster, get off, and you're back onto like stable land again. And that's exactly what happens in terms of your needs as well. And the thing about all of this is that anytime that you have been used to doing things a certain way, even if that certain way seems to be working okay, because that's the other thing with this, is like we don't only experience supportive discomfort when we are addressing negative situations. We also do the same thing when we are learning, growing, or moving to something that's going to serve us even better. So like if we're used to doing things a certain way and we've got into the habit of doing them a certain way, if we then have to change that habit in order to get things to where we want them to be, that changing of the habit feels uncomfortable. So even like, we were talking about this the other day and we were trying to think of a good example of this, and I'm still not sure we've got the best example available to us. But I remember, like, for example, like when I learned to type, like we reached a point where I wasn't allowed to be taught to touch type because it's considered a vocational skill in the UK, which means that you're not allowed to learn those before the ages of 16. I'd already been typing so much that learning how to touch type was incredibly uncomfortable for me because I knew how to do it quicker and easier, but it wouldn't have actually been as effective as if I actually gone through. I mean, the truth of the matter was I was typing so much while trying to learn to touch type. I wasn't able to stick with the touch typing because I couldn't write my essays as quickly as I needed to and do the homework I needed to at that point in my kind of school career. So I wasn't able to stick with the touch typing. Now, the truth of the matter is, if I'd been able to stick with the discomfort of the touch typing, if I'd not had all this pressure of like deadlines of things that meant I had to do things quickly, then I actually would probably be an even faster typer now. And I'd be even more effective as a typer than I would have been from just doing it a lot, which is what basically got me to the point I'm at now. I mean, do I touch type? Yes, technically, because I don't look at the keys. Am I doing it in the most effective way possible? Absolutely not. There are some times where I think people look at, what the hell is she doing? I mean, it's just the way I figured out when I didn't get told how to do it any better. And the same is true, like with like you talked about like the same thing when you were dancing, right? Like you got used to doing things a certain way, and then you had to unlearn that habit to be able to get to the next level in terms of what you wanted to achieve.
Yeah, and you're talking mental memory and muscle memory and comfortability. And like when you've been doing a turn for a specific way for 10 years and then somebody's like, nope, we're changing the trajectory of the turn. Your foot's in the wrong place, your leg's in the wrong place. It's like, oh, like and at that point, I mean, we're talking about a dance turn. And in that moment, it's like, oh shit, everything feels uncomfortable because your brain's like, am I going to be able to do this? It's trying to talk to your muscle that's now trying to do a different thing. But once you start to practice it and be able to do it, the turn at the end is so much better. And I never looked back and was like, well, I wish I was doing my shitty turns again. Like and it was uncomfortable to get to the point where my brain, my body, and my being were all on the same page with the new way of doing it.
And so as with like what we were talking about, like in the previous episodes where we were talking about like having the direct conversations and having the uncomfortable conversations regarding like not avoiding conflict and what have you, the same is true when it comes to supportive discomfort. One of the ways that you get better at tolerating, you increase your capacity to engage with supportive discomfort, is to practice it. Like, try doing different things, like try doing things that you haven't done before, but small things. You don't have to start. I mean, for example, like let's look at the example. I'm not using myself as the pinnacle of how to do this because I'm going to demonstrate by what I'm about to say that I did not do this the way that would be most advisable. But like if I decide, like going from nothing to doing a full aerial choreography class without any steps in the middle, was it uncomfortable? Yes. Was it fun? Yes. Did I get some benefit from it? Yes. Was the downside a little bit more extreme than it would have been if I had kind of made some steps in between here and there? Yes, absolutely. I could have started doing a different form of exercise that would have given me the foundation for Lyra. Now, the truth of the matter is I didn't know this Lyra class just came up out of nowhere. And it was like, I'm going this week. Would you like to go? And I was like, actually, yes, I would, because I haven't done this in a while. I really want to, and maybe it'll give me the motivation. Now, actually what I would have preferred to, what probably would have been the easier thing would have been to do some exercises at home that might have had like helped with my grip strength. That might have helped with my arm strength, so that when I got to the class, it wasn't such an extreme difference when I got there. It was like a stepping stone to get me to the next thing. So where you're thinking about like something you might want to change, where you're thinking about the things that you're wanting to engage with this supportive discomfort, sometimes what can help is to actually kind of break it down into smaller steps. And so each one of those steps, there's going to be a little bit of discomfort, but it's going to spread that discomfort over those steps rather than have you do it all in the one go, in which case you're going to feel the hit of it all in the one go, which means it's going to feel more extreme, even though it's probably not far off the same amount of discomfort you would feel if you broke it down into those steps. So if you're wanting to engage with supportive discomfort, think about something you want to learn to do, or something you want to change, or something you want to grow. So again, like with eating habits. A great example of this is eating habits. So if you're a long time listener, you probably know that I'm vegan and I'm mostly gluten-free. And if at one point in my life, I was a hardcore carnivore. Like a meal was not a meal unless it had meat in it. Like legitimately, that was my mentality. Like if there was no meat in it, I felt like I was like, it wasn't a proper meal. Now, if I'd gone from there to being, and at one point I was raw vegan. At one point I was raw vegan and gluten-free. If I tried to go from hardcore carnivore to raw vegan and gluten-free in one step, I'm going to tell you, it would have been very uncomfortable. Would there have been a benefit to it? Quite possibly. Would I have been able to get through the discomfort to experience the benefit? I don't know if I would have done. In fact, it probably would have been so uncomfortable because it was such a dramatic shift that I probably would have completely avoided doing anything vegan for the rest of my life. But the truth of the matter is, I did it in steps, not because I intended to. This was never my goal. I was never headed in this direction. This is just how it naturally unfolded. Whereas I stopped eating red meat, and then I stopped eating meat and poultry. I was pescatarian for a very, very long time. Then I became vegetarian. Then I became vegan. Then I became raw vegan. And I like raw vegan. I haven't stuck with it. I'm just a regular old vegan these days. But because I've done it in a way where each step had a little discomfort with it, but way less discomfort than if I tried to do it all in the one go. And so by doing things in the small steps, or doing small things in different ways to get used to that supportive discomfort, then you get used to that, like I know how this feels in my system. I know that, but I also know when I'm feeling this kind of discomfort, I know there's a benefit on the other side of it. I know where we're going to get to. And therefore it makes it like, this is tolerable now, because it's like, okay, I know this is just part of the process, but I'm focused on that. I'm focused on my why. I'm focused on what I'm looking to create on the other side of it. And that becomes a compelling reason that makes this supportive discomfort worth it. Anything you want to add before we kind of finish up on supportive discomfort? Because I feel like we're at the point now where I'm like, we need to make the next
I'm teetering
episode
on the edge of the next topic. So
yes, exactly. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to call it a day for today, because next time we're going to be talking about unsupportive discomfort. And if you have heard that you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, it's so important that you understand what unsupportive discomfort is, because they're two completely different things, and you need to be able to tell the signals in your body between the two, so that, because one, you definitely do not want to be engaging with, one you want to learn how to engage with and build your capacity for. So it's so important to be able to understand the difference. So we're going to be talking about that on the next episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next time talking about that. Between now and then, remember to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard
and would like to see some of Serena's awesome facial expressions,
check out the video podcast on YouTube.
And remember, supportive discomfort might be uncomfortable by definition in the short term, but it's going to have a huge positive impact to your needs in the long term.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.